Welcome to the Stark Reflections on Writing and Publishing podcast. There has never been a better time for writers. More information, options, and opportunities are available to you, but navigating these requires insight. Join Mark Leslie Lefebvre as he draws upon more than a quarter century of experience as a writer, a bookseller, and a trusted book industry consultant to explore and reflect on the writing and publishing landscape to help you make informed choices on your writer journey.
Henry David Thoreau said, "Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you imagined." Well, in today's interview, I speak with musician and writer Tommy Ray about how he has done just that. We talk about Tommy's experience of how he took a dream, an actual dream, and transitioned it into reality by listening to his heart and trusting his instincts in recreating his life. He shares his insights in his book Rambling Across America, and we talk about that. We talk about his music, and we talk about the new series of fiction stories he's working on releasing. But before the interview, here is a quick personal update. Earlier this week, Joanna Penn interviewed me for a forthcoming episode of her Creative Penn podcast. It's always fun talking to Joanna, and for much of this talk, we spoke about my book, The 7 P's of Publishing Success. Now, that episode is scheduled to go live on Christmas Eve. This is December 2018, and if you're not familiar with Joanna's podcast at thecreativepenn.com, and that's Penn with a double N, you really should check it out. Now, I interviewed Jo for this podcast way back in episode 2, which came out in January of 2018. It was about her new book at the time that was a co-authored title called The Healthy Writer. It's a great book, and Joanna's podcast is also one that has been on my must-listen-to list for many, many years, and that's for good reason, because it's always inspiring, it's always informative, and I always learn new things, even if the guest or the topic is not something that I think I'm going to enjoy. I'd like to give a shout out to the awesome folks supporting this podcast via Patreon. During the recent Black Friday sale, I ordered a much better microphone than the current one that I've been using, and I'll soon be upgrading to a Blue Yeti microphone and a couple of accessories for it that were all on for a wonderfully reduced price. And I was able to save up for it thanks to the support from my awesome patrons at patreon.com/starkreflections. I'll be sure to let you know once the mic and accessories arrive and I get it all set up, and I'm now more encouraged to provide even more content and extra bonus features for you at the Patreon site. Also this week, I received print-proof copies of the very first test printing that I'm doing for the 7 P's of Publishing Success. Very shortly on its heels, we'll be killing it on Kobo, that I'm doing some local copies of, but I will be distributing the print version through the beta program at Draft to Digital, which I'm pretty thrilled about, but I haven't seen those proof copies yet. And no, I also haven't made any headway on the audiobook, well, with the exception of a little thing I've tested out, and which I'll explain in a forthcoming episode. But the locally printed version of the 7 P's looks great, which means I'll have some copies of that and killing it on Kobo on hand when I'm in Vancouver in a few weeks' time to speak at the CAPS, or the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers conference, for a talk called Successfully Navigating Your Publishing Goals. There I'll be speaking with speakers who have books and helping them understand some of the risks and pitfalls that can happen in publishing, because a lot of times they're experts in speaking but not necessarily experts at publishing. So I want to help them with that and to avoid any of the bad things that can easily happen if they're not careful. Now this week I also did a test run for a webinar I'll be hosting for Reedsy Live with Martin on next Wednesday, December 5th at 3 p.m. Eastern. It'll be called Kobo Publishing, Getting Your Book Featured, and it's a free webinar that anyone can attend. There's a link to the event in the show notes at starkreflections.ca, as well as on my website, markleslie.ca. It's under the tab News, and it's within forthcoming appearances, and you can register for that for free. There will be a chat, and then the second half of that hour will be specifically for questions from the folks who are attending the webinar. Well, that's it for this week's personal update. Now for a quick word from this episode's sponsor. Findaway Voices gives authors and publishers more freedom, more services, and more sales options than any other audiobook service provider or distributor. And getting started is easy. It's even easier, actually, if you already have an ebook listed via Draft to Digital. All you need to do is click a quick button that'll port several fields of your metadata, like the title and author and description and image, cover image, over, so you don't have to enter or upload it all again. It not only saves you time, but it also saves you money, because if you sign up for Findaway Voices via Draft to Digital or via the link at starkreflections.ca/findaway, Findaway Voices will waive the $49 casting fee for your new title. Now that sounds like a great deal to me. As I've mentioned in previous episodes, I'm going to be releasing the aforementioned 7 P's of publishing success and killing it on Kobo via Findaway Voices as soon as I can finish recording it. My voice is now back from having a cold, but I haven't had the chance to do it because it's been a pretty chaotic week for me. Well, that's it for the personal update and for my chat about sponsor. Let's start rambling across America with Tommy Ray. Hey, Tommy, thanks for hanging out with me today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here.
So I want to dive in immediately to talk about your life-changing process as a musician, and of course, how that ties into the book Rambling Across America. Can you take our listeners back to that moment in your life where you decided you were going to hit the road and you were going to follow your dream?
Well, the original moment, I would say, took place in 2015-ish, mid-year, and it easily just started with a dream I had one night. And luckily, I keep a journal next to my bedstand, so when I woke up from the dream, I was able to recall most of the events, and it basically had me jumping in my pickup truck at the time and heading around America and literally wanting to play music and share Tommy Ray music on either street corners or in venues or whoever would want to listen to me. And the whole process began actually in about 2014 when I truly started diving into anything is possible. You can recreate your life. You know, we have one shot at life. That's when I was reading books by Paulo Coehlo, Dan Millman, even The Secret, you know, The Hero, and then the multiple amount of YouTube channels such as Jim Rohn, you know, all those guys who speak about anything is possible if you dream big with unwavering faith, all the, you know, cliches that I've been following since 2014.
Okay, that is fascinating, actually. So prior to, you know, when this enlightenment happened in 2015, you had the dream, you remembered it, you wrote it down, then you got in the truck and started to travel. How long has music been a part of your life?
Music has been a part of my life since childhood. I actually have a picture of me standing next to a guitar where the guitar was taller than I was. However, I truly did not start playing probably until about 2003, 2004, where I taught myself guitar. I have an older brother who's an amazing musician, has a great voice, and he tried to teach me to play right-handed when I was about 8 or 9. Now, given I'm left-handed, so I don't know if that was the issue. I was your normal 8 or 9-year-old, so the attention span wasn't there like you see on the YouTube channels of the 10-year-olds getting pulled up on stage and play amazing music with these live bands. It just never stuck. But then I started listening to Cat Stevens, who was my favorite all-time songwriter, and he just reinvented my desire to just at least play guitar and start writing music, basically lyrics. So that's why I just been on this slow pathway of saying, wow, I am meant to live a creative life. So what can I do to bring that dream to a reality?
Oh, that is actually fantastic. And I love that, meant to live a creative life. And that is a part of Rambling Across America. You know, it's almost like a guidebook for how you did it for other creative people who want to kind of follow your passion. So take us back to 2015. You got in the truck, you had your guitar, you had the dream. Literally, you had a dream and you had the dream. What was that like?
The first day was a little like, okay, what am I doing? I just quit, to most people, a dream job, making a very good high salary with, benefits and all this. Wasn't killing myself, but yet just the desire to listen to my heart, maintaining unwavering faith and trusting your instincts was much more powerful. So after the dream, it did take me about 4 or 5 months to get everything ready for the trip. But once I actually set sail in my truck saying this was the silver horse I ride from Bon Jovi, it was like a load of weight off my shoulders that I'm finally saying yes and taking the risk to say, never give up on your dreams. Let's do this.
Okay, this is fantastic. And I imagine some of the songs that you've written about, there must have been songs you've written about that moment, about that process.
Yes, I currently have 2 songs I actually wrote or composed between the time I had the dream to the time I left in a rough draft format, which I actually did perform on stages across America to people. But those 2 songs are currently now in the final mastering stages at my producer in North Carolina at Hit Music Studios that I hope to be releasing soon to the world in the next hopefully 6 weeks.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's really exciting. So you're in the truck, or you had the 4 months where you planned because you had to leave this amazing job to go and pursue the dream. How did you know where you were going to go? Did you take out a map? Did you look at venues that you wanted to book? Did you have anything booked in advance, or was it just a wish and a prayer and you get in the truck and go?
I attempted to actually book a self-guided music tour where I'd actually have stops and actually could get paid to play. I sent out emails to over 100 venues and no one responded with anything. They just like deaf ears.
So 100 emails to 100 different venues that you had sort of mapped out.
So I basically used Google like we use everything. And I basically typed in top 10 music cities, top 10 cities for street busking, top 10 cities for songwriters, going out west wise. That's where my first goal was to leave and go west. The original trip was the entire United States. So I had, an entire year planned out to be on the road. However, I was blessed at the last minute, right before my trip took place, I was blessed and was told I was nominated for 2 music awards through the Mississippi Music Foundation for Best Mississippi Music Artist of 2016 and Best Song of 2016. And the award show was going to be on like a May 6th. So you're looking at right now, it's around March when I actually left, February. So instead of having a whole year, now I had I got about 7.5, 8 weeks before I need to be back at the award show where I was able, to walk a red carpet, perform on stage in front of all my nominees. So I had more of a deadline at that point. So I did have to bring down the list of cities I wanted to go to, where to spend time, how much time in order to make the entire trip. Because the entire trip was, roughly 7 weeks. I ended up driving through 15 states, over 9,000 miles.
Wow, that's quite a bit of mileage. Wow. And so what was the song? What was the name of the song that you were nominated for this award?
The first song I was nominated for overall was Zama. It is a true song written in the remembrance of my father. Basically, I was born in Zama, Mississippi, and I was born in 1973 with a population of 36 people.
36 people.
36 people. The closest town either way was about 45 minutes. So it was just this red, dusty dirt road that we lived on. But no matter what, we didn't have much. It was my father's favorite place to live. No matter where he was in the world with military or his traveling work, he always got back there as much as possible. And unfortunately, in 2002 of July, that's also his now final resting place. So I felt special that not only did I write him a song about, his favorite city, but on his tombstone, I had engraved called Safely Home.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is quite beautiful. Wow. Well, congratulations on that. And it's quite, I think it's pretty special that you're actually able to pay tribute to both your father and to this beautiful, small town of a handful of people, basically, in a song. So I can imagine that song probably resonates really, really well with residents.
It does. And I've kind of, put it out there. I was hoping, obviously, like we all do when we do something creative and you want the world to embrace it. And I was, had the expectations and the hopes that maybe the state of Mississippi would want to use part of it for their tourism. Maybe a more established Mississippi artist would want to re-record it, or, get into magazines and all that. And I tried, I attempted. It's not like I just wished, I acted. And, unfortunately, nothing came of it, but I still get compliments when I post it on Facebook, or I still get the occasional great song on Reverb Nation or one of those distribution sites that I'm part of.
Okay, so this, and that kind of links into, because this is obviously a podcast for writers. You are a writer as well as a musician, so you're a creative. Your journey as a musician, playing in venues and actually working with studios and getting distribution of music, how different is that from the world of, okay, you've now written 2 books that are out and available in the world. How much has your experience as a musician lent you to support that role in writing the books that you've written?
Well, for Rambling Across America, it's the backbone of the book is I am a musician. This was a music tour. I try to add in not only these are the things I did to figure out how to do a tour, so it could hopefully be instructional, but also I write in a journal style. So I wrote it in a way where I shared each day's events as sitting around a campfire, camping out of my back of my truck. And, oh, wow, I wrote a song tonight, so here it is. Or these are my insights, and these are quotes that I learned from the readings. So I just try to intertwine it all together. And that's why I actually recently just made a new company called Tommy Ray Entertainment. Instead of trying to do, Tommy Ray Books, Tommy Ray Insights, my blog site, Tommy Ray Music, and soon to be my YouTube influencer channel, now I just tied it all in together. So now it's just Tommy Ray Entertainment, my creative services to hopefully my goal to create inspiration and value to the world.
Oh, that's fantastic. So when did you decide that you were going to write the book Rambling Across America? How did that come about?
I actually had that in my mind even before I left, because I did previously write a book in 2012 when I quit another job and I decided to go to Spain and France, and I walked over 600 miles on the Camino de Santiago, which inspired my first book. However, after I wrote Rambling Across America using new knowledge, obviously my writing skills have greatly improved. I actually pulled that book off the market, which I'm currently rewriting now to make sure it's a superior product and read for my readers like Rambling Across America is.
And so, I mean, immediately when you look at Rambling Across America, obviously it has been professionally edited, it's been professionally produced, it's got a beautiful cover. How did you find the resources for getting that book out there? Because you're a musician, you're not a writer, right? So that was how did you sort of learn your way into that?
Just using Google and YouTube and just trying to read as much as I can. I have 3-ringer binders filled with hours and hours of research and reading and trying to, improve my own wisdom, because you have one route you can take. If you got money, you can just pay everybody to do everything for you from day one, ghostwriters to everybody. If you don't have money, you need to figure it out on yourself. And the big difference between my first book on the Camino compared to this one is I was in a different stage of my financial life. So I was able to pay a little bit more for a better editor. And actually for Rambling Across America, I used 3 editors. And then, a professional book designer instead of a student. And marketing wise, I can offer marketing ads compared to before it was just word of mouth or just using Facebook only.
Right.
That does help. And I see the whole gamut when I look at young authors trying to get into the market or try to say, how do I write my first book? Well, first, I just want to say, you just got to research. You just got to read your butt off. I work my day job of 8 or 9 hours, come home, eat, and then I spend another 3, 4, 5 hours every night, 7 days a week, reading more stuff. And then I use websites like Upwork and Readsy and, Facebook groups, podcasts, Twitters. There's millions of people out there doing what you love to do. you just try to contact those people and hope maybe they got a generous heart. They'll say, hey, I'll be your mentor. Or, hey, here's one piece of wisdom, or here's one piece of advice. You just keep building off that, just like you build a house with bricks.
Now, you strike me as somebody who is very motivated, very driven, very passionate about what you do. And yet, being a creative, being a writer, being a musician, I'm sure the world has slapped you in the face a number of times. How do you maintain that integrity? How do you maintain that strength to keep going when things get rough?
Through listening to my heart and maintaining unwavering faith. And I've been beat down most of my life. You know, the reason I wrote my little short story series was because of the troubles and the traumas that I went through as a child, but mainly through persistence. It just really doesn't bother me anymore. I think I don't even, from being, you know, kicked off stage in front of people to the point where you get that bad review, I just like, who cares? I'm still doing what I love to do. Whenever I'm gone, my books are still going to be out there for future generations to read. So might as well keep going, because if I stop, my only alternative is, okay, I'm stuck in my day job again, which is not bad, but still, it's not what I truly desire to do and what I have faith that I'll be doing full time with Tommy Ray Entertainment for the rest of my days.
That's fantastic. So you sort of alluded to something I was going to ask about. So this is sort of a two-tiered question. As you rambled across America, you've now landed somewhere. I want you to talk about where you are now, but then I also want to talk about the fact that it almost feels like you enjoyed prose so much and you had more dreams that you wanted to share in a different way. That sort of leads to your new horror story that has recently been published. Can you talk a little bit about where that rambling led to, where you are now, and then the new dreams that have inspired this new series that you're working on?
Well, when I was on my trip, and you know, when you're by yourself almost all the time, for me, who's been by myself almost all my life, I was definitely the latchkey kid, where, you know, your mom wakes you up in the 3rd and 4th grade, breakfast is on the stove, get yourself ready to go to school, come home to an empty house. I mean, I did that from early ages. So I think that instilled the independence to handle solitude and actually cherish loving yourself so much that you can actually be with yourself and you don't have to settle or require someone else to be in the same room to be happy. But I did make a major mistake. When I was on my trip, I was making contacts. I met a couple people from Nashville at the time, like, hey, Tommy, why don't you come on up? You know, can't guarantee anything, but maybe something will happen. But when I got back from my trip in May, I went back to my aunt and uncle's house in Mississippi. And, you know, they're like very supportive and loving. But next thing you know, you kind of get back into that, wow, it's kind of, I don't have that desire, or that desire kind of goes away a little bit. And that little ego voice starts to come in. Then I was like, well, let me go down and visit my brothers and my mom in Florida, because I haven't seen them in a long time. I got down to my brother's house, moved in with him, and it just, even though I tried my hardest to stay active, I really just started getting sucked back into the matrix. And that ego was like, Tommy, you got to get back in a job. You got to do something. And that's where in, you know, 2016, near the end of the year, I chose to, instead of hitting back on the road, I chose to go back into the matrix and get a day job again. It just so happens my day job's a little bit better than, you know, working a Starbucks or, you know, that type of job, nothing against it, but I'm able to have a better financial future with what I went to school for. So that's what led me to where I'm currently at, which is St. Croix of the United States Virgin Islands. So now I'm on a small little island about 2,000 miles away from Miami. So the inner struggles there daily about, I have a day job, I have a dream. I know you can do anything and everything that you desire because of the internet, but at the same time, I truly would like to know what it's like to be around people and have a mastermind group to where I can talk to someone face to face and sit down like, hey, let's work on a song, or hey, let's work on a story together, or, you know, those type of things, which I don't have down here.
Okay. Are you actually, are you still playing on the islands?
No, I do not.
No?
I don't really enjoy playing the bar scene where you play covers and try to reinvent the radio to people who want to sing along and drink. I much prefer just to play my songs that I've written. So it's almost like a songwriter's night. And I guess that's why I fell so much in love with my trip across the West, because I actually played in venues. When you went there were no TVs on the wall. Everybody there was there for the songwriter. So
Right.
it was a completely different atmosphere. And I just fell in love with it. I was like, I want to do this every single night.
Right. So how does that that experience of being on stage and releasing your creations in front of a live audience, how does that compare to releasing those creations as a writer in prose that's read on paper or an ebook format?
I believe it's easier for me on stage through the music because of the melodies and the lyrics. And, I like to think I have a good stage presence. I'm still learning as an author. So to truly get my feelings on paper, I still, I beat myself up with at times, because I can tell my story orally to someone. They're like, oh my goodness, that is awesome. That's amazing. I can't wait to read your book, or I can't believe you're doing that. Something I would love to do. But then when I transition to paper, I lose some of that inspiration and value that I create when I can do it orally. And that's what I'm really trying to work diligently on now. So when you read my words, you feel and can sense everything I do inside me to show, hey, you may have a problem. You may not like where you are, but let me show you a possible route or journey that can change your life like it's changed mine so far.
Oh, that's fantastic. And so you just recently released Mirror of Perception, and that's the first of an ongoing series that you plan on releasing. Those were also inspired by actual dreams.
Yes, the hard part is I'm trying to create suspense and like a wow factor about the short story series, but yet if I tell too much about it, I feel like it gives it away too much.
So what's the elevator pitch? What's the one-line hook or something that you have for Mirror of Perception, just so we can kind of entice people?
Come read to see if I'm alive, dead, doomed, safe, because these are, in my mind, these are reality. They're not just made up stories, like fictional short stories that you read to, amuse yourself. These to me are actually real events that I'm trying to describe in a way that you'll be like, oh my goodness, he has a tormented mind, or wow, I can't believe that was the ending. So that's the hard part about trying to put this book out there, this short series out there. I'm trying to have to keep it a secret until the person reads it and realizes what's going on, and then say, oh wow, I can't wait to read another one.
Okay, that's cool. So what are the parallels between songwriter, whether that's writing music or writing lyrics, and writing short prose, like a short story?
It's similar. I use the same techniques of, music wise, it's easier because I can sit at my table, and even though I may strum the same 3 chords over and over to get a melody going in my head, I can simply just, I'll put a couple things on paper and then I can slowly develop it. I do the same thing with my books and my short stories, except I may have classical music in the background. I can't have like a movie or a TV on, but I have to have something in the background. So, classical or the laws of attraction, manifestation, new age type music for, positive clarity, or study music to move myself through. And then I put a lot more assistance and guidance in my books. That's why I use editors, where in my songs, even though, yes, I would love to have 2, 3, 4 co-songwriters per song, currently I'm in a situation where I can still write a song to the point I feel comfortable putting it out by myself. Books, I need that feedback still from, qualified developmental editor, a content editor, and then finally, a proofreader. And then I can play off of their remarks and comments. And then all of a sudden, like a whole new world opens up, like, wow, I didn't think of that. And that's why I like the mastermind group type situation where you have mentors that you can bounce ideas off, because next thing you know, you're going in direction A, but you hear a couple things. Next thing you know, you make a 90-degree turn, go to direction C, D, and E, and all of a sudden, wow, this whole new world of opportunities open up for you.
Well, this is absolutely fantastic. I'm listening to you. I'm inspired. I want to listen to your music. I want to read the stuff that you've written. So I'm sure that listeners to this podcast want that as well. Can you please share with the listeners where they can learn and find out more about Tommy Ray Entertainment?
Currently, I have multiple websites. I don't have a consolidated Tommy Ray Entertainment yet, but I do have my www.tommyraybooks.com,
Okay.
my www.tommyraymusic.com, my tommyrayinsights.com, which is my inspirational blog. I got my YouTube channel. Just type my name in Google. Something's going to come up on Facebook or anything. Or they can even email me and ask me questions. I want to be open to the world, because my ultimate goal is that I can create inspiration and value and prove that, you should never take this life for granted, and let's leave our mark on this world in a popular, positive, optimistic way.
That is fantastic. I will make sure to include links to all of those sites and your YouTube video in the show notes at starkreflections.ca. But for people who only listen and don't go to the website, what email could they reach you at if they want to reach out to you?
That is Tommy@tommyraybooks.com.
Okay.
Would be
Awesome.
the simplest one.
Awesome. Tommy, thank you so much for sharing your inspiration, your insights, and your wisdom today.
Can I leave with one quote, please?
I would love that. That'd be awesome.
So one of my favorite quotes, and it's actually on my book, is in quotation marks, "One does not discover new lands without consenting to lose sight of the shore for a very long time," by Andre Gide, Gide.
That is fantastic. Thanks so much, Tommy.
Thank you so much.
It was great speaking with Tommy and seeing the two different sides of his creativity and his relentless optimism and passion for living a creative life, even when the road turns. For example, the trip was supposed to be a year. He had to condense it to 7 weeks. The fact that he was living in a place and had to take a job in order to support himself while continuing to build the dream. There are setbacks. There are kinks in the road, to mix metaphors. But there's always that passion to keep working, to keep at it, and to be optimistic. And Tommy talked about maintaining that faith and that persistence in pursuing that creative life. So as I was producing this episode, I was also watching my friend Julie Strauss on Facebook posting updates about the catch-up she's been doing on her latest novel for NaNoWriMo. Now, she was behind, in her daily goal of 1,666 words per day changed to something like 3,800 words. Just before midnight every day for the past week, she's not only posted an update indicating that she's killing her goal, she's usually a few hundred words ahead every day, and is well on track to finish her 50,000 word goal for the month, but she also pauses to offer these amusing updates that are as entertaining as her fiction. What I love about that is, as frustrated and restless as she is, she hasn't once stopped digging into the work every single day, button, chair, fingers on keyboard, putting all of her heart and soul into it. And she's turning the angst that she has with this process into hilarious and cheeky updates that me and so many others every single day are both cheering her on for, as well as being entertained by her brilliant musings of the writer's struggle. Like Tommy, like Julie, you're not alone in your desire to be creative, to live that creative life. You're not alone. Sometimes it's the words or the presence of other writers. Sometimes it's a reflective bit of music that makes us pause to appreciate not only the talents, but the inborn desire we have to live a creative life and to share that creativity with the world. I think it's appropriate for me to reflect on Julie's writing as part of this episode, because Julie's book is in her Oro Beach series, and it's a book about a small town and music. Blues music is at the center of it. Now, I read and loved Julie's first book, Almost Blue, in that series, and I can't wait to read the next ones. But in the meantime, I'm enjoying the updates that Julie has, and as we're tailing towards the last couple days of November, I know I'll be cheering her on as this continues, and can't wait to read the book. Speaking of reading the book, I immediately purchased Rambling Across America from Tommy. I'm going to be reading that on my Kobo. And I also went out and bought a few of his songs and one of his LPs via iTunes right after the interview because I was so inspired. And because I find Tommy's music and his vocals so inspiring, so beautiful, I wanted to leave off with a sample of the song Zama, a tribute to his hometown and his father. This was one of the songs he was nominated for, and it's from Tommy's album Crossroads. As I listen to it, I reflect back on the love that I have not just for my original hometown of Levack, Ontario, a small community in mid-northern Ontario, of course larger than Tommy's town of 36 people. I had about 2,000 people in that town, but also on the love that I have for so many other places that I have lived and I have called home. The song is beautiful and thoughtful and perhaps perfect for your own reflections of your own creativity and the places that you have known and loved.
Take me back that red clay Mississippi back roads of my birth. Pecan trees shaking in the wind. Old F-150 coming around that bend. No matter where I go, take me home, the Mississippi. Roads, red clay, back roads of my birth.
Well, that's it for episode 49 of the Stark Reflections podcast. Until episode 50, which is coming to you very, very soon. This is Mark Leslie Lefebvre wishing you great writing and good Stark Reflections.
Thank you for listening to the Stark Reflections podcast. You can find show notes for each episode at starkreflections.ca.
The music for this podcast, Laser Groove, was composed and produced by Kevin MacLeod. Check out more of Kevin's great music at incomptech.com.